a lot of expression of pain. I was an open walking wound of emotion. And I wanted that healing so much. I was tired of the backstabbing between.
Welcome back to GlowGossips USA, where the truth behind the sister wives universe unfolds in the rawest, most unfiltered way. Today's story begins with a silence. A silence that hid the biggest financial betrayal the Brown family has ever faced. A silence that covered a missing $315,000. And a silence that finally broke when Kody Brown and Robyn Brown faced each other in the most explosive fight of their marriage. For months, the Brown family had been falling apart one piece at a time. The houses were never built, the land remained untouched, and the taxes on Coyote Pass continued to pile up. Despite the chaos, Robyn's home remained surprisingly stable. Her rent was paid on time. Her shopping habits never changed. And even though her online business rarely made profit, she never seemed financially stressed. Something wasn't adding up. But everything changed the day Janelle opened the financial documents. She wasn't looking for trouble. She was simply checking numbers, something she had done for years. But as she went through the papers, one number kept flashing in her mind. $315,000. A huge amount. A terrifying amount to suddenly be missing. Janelle looked again. Then again. And by the third time, her heart was racing. The money had been taken out of the family fund meant for land development and taxes. But where did it go? She followed the trail. And then she froze. The money had been transferred into a private bank account. An account with one name attached to it. Robyn Brown. Janelle felt her stomach drop. She checked again, thinking maybe she misunderstood. But it was exactly what it looked like. Robyn had moved the money. Quietly. Secretly. Without telling anyone. Without permission from the family. Without even informing Kody. At the same time, another part of the drama was unfolding quietly but powerfully. Janelle and Meri, aware that something was wrong but not knowing the full scope, had already begun investigating. They had asked Kody for statements, receipts, land contribution breakdowns, and every time he stalled or delayed, their suspicions only grew. Janelle, always financially responsible, always organized, knew the numbers weren't adding up. She could feel that money was going somewhere it shouldn't. And Meri, after years of being left out, overlooked, pushed to the side, knew better than to trust Robyn's innocent act. So when news finally reached them that $315,000 had gone missing, and Kody and Robyn were tearing each other apart in the kitchen, the shock was less about the money, and more about the betrayal they had long predicted would come from Robyn's side of the marriage. The fight inside the Brown home intensified, as Kody accused Robyn of intentionally trying to sabotage the financial settlement discussions. Robyn denied it, crying so loudly the neighbors could probably hear her, saying that everyone had abandoned her, that she was the only one who cared about the family structure, about their kids, about keeping things fair. But fairness wasn't the real issue, control was. Robyn had spent years securing her position as the wife with the strongest influence over Kody, the wife whose voice always mattered most, whose tears could always override anyone else's truth. Now, however, those same tears weren't working. Kody's voice cracked as he told Robyn he had defended her for years, defended her to his kids, defended her to his ex-wives, defended her to the public, even when it cost him relationships with his own children. And yet, she had gone behind his back to take money that didn't belong to her. Money that could have helped repay Janelle after he left her nearly bankrupt. Money that could have helped Meri rebuild her life. Money that could have eased the pressure on their fight to divide Coyote Pass fairly. Instead, Robyn put it in her own account. But the real twist came when Robyn finally admitted why she did it. Through sobs, she confessed that she believed the other wives were going to take everything from her, that the public hated her, that the network was shifting sympathy toward Christine and Janelle, and she feared being left with nothing. In her mind, the only way to secure her future was to take what she could while she could, and she felt justified in doing so. This confession stunned Kody into silence. For the first time, he saw Robyn not as his loyal wife, but as someone who had been planning her exit strategy all along. Someone who believed she was alone in the world. Someone who was willing to sabotage the entire family for her own safety. And it shattered him. But what neither of them knew was that Janelle and Meri were already on their way to the property. They had received a message from someone close to the family, someone who witnessed the argument spilling out of the open windows and into the yard. They knew something was wrong. And as they approached the house, they walked into a storm far bigger than either expected. Now, however, those same tears weren't working. Kody's voice cracked as he told Robyn he had defended her for years, defended her to his kids, defended her to his ex-wives, defended her to the public, even when it cost him relationships with his own children. And yet, she had gone behind his back to take money that didn't belong to her. Money that could have helped repay Janelle after he left her nearly bankrupt. Money that could have helped Meri rebuild her life. Money that could have eased the pressure on their fight to divide Coyote Pass fairly. Instead, Robyn put it in her own account. But the real twist came when Robyn finally admitted why she did it. Through sobs, she confessed that she believed the other wives were going to take everything from her, that the public hated her, that the network was shifting sympathy toward Christine and Janelle, and she feared being left with nothing. In her mind, the only way to secure her future was to take what she could while she could, and she felt justified in doing so. This confession stunned Kody into silence. For the first time, he saw Robyn not as his loyal wife, but as someone who had been planning her exit strategy all along. Someone who believed she was alone in the world. Someone who was willing to sabotage the entire family for her own safety. And it shattered him. But what neither of them knew was that Janelle and Meri were already on their way to the property. They had received a message from someone close to the family, someone who witnessed the argument spilling out of the open windows and into the yard. They knew something was wrong. And as they approached the house, they walked into a storm far bigger than either expected. The air inside the house felt thick, almost suffocating, as if the walls themselves were absorbing every ounce of betrayal, anger, and disappointment swirling between the four of them. Janelle's hands trembled as she held the paper, her eyes scanning the numbers again and again, refusing to believe what she already knew was true. Beside her, Meri stood frozen, her breath shallow, the weight of years of emotional neglect crashing over her all at once. For so long, she had been the outsider, the one pushed aside, the one whose feelings didn't matter. And now, seeing Robyn caught red-handed in a financial trap she had set for all of them, Meri felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: vindication. Maybe even justice. Kody paced the room like a caged lion, pulling at his hair, muttering under his breath, shaking his head as if trying to wake up from a nightmare. But this wasn't a nightmare. It was the truth, one he could no longer hide, deny, twist, or manipulate. Robyn sat on the couch, her face buried in her hands, sobbing loudly, dramatically, almost performatively. But the one thing she didn't do was take responsibility. Not once. Janelle finally spoke, her voice low but burning with fury. "You stole from us, Robyn. From me. From Meri. You took money that wasn't yours. You went behind our backs, behind the family, and hid it. Why?" Her voice cracked on the last word, not because she was weak, but because she had tried so hard, for so many years, to forgive, to be patient, to believe that despite everything, the family would somehow survive. But this was a blow she didn't see coming. Not like this. Not from Robyn, who had always pretended she wanted unity. Robyn lifted her head slowly, mascara streaked down her cheeks, her voice trembling as she tried once again to twist the narrative. "I didn't steal anything. I just protected it. I protected my kids. I protected what was left of my family. Nobody cares about us anymore. Everyone left except me. I'm the one who stayed. I deserved something for holding all of this together." Her words were meant to evoke pity, to cast herself as the victim once again, but the room had gone cold to her tears. For the first time in years, Meri stepped forward, and her voice cut through the tension like a blade. "You didn't hold us together, Robyn. You tore us apart the moment you walked into this family. And now you think you're entitled to money that doesn't belong to you because we didn't bow down to your version of loyalty." The bitterness in her tone wasn't hidden anymore. She had held it in too long, through the catfishing scandal, through Kody emotionally abandoning her, through Robyn taking her place in the family. She had swallowed her pain silently for years, and now, standing in front of the woman who weaponized her tears to gain power, Meri felt something shift inside her. Robyn tried to answer, but Kody cut in, his voice booming across the room. "Why didn't you tell me?" His anger wasn't just anger, there was heartbreak too. For years, he had defended her, fought for her, lost his relationships with his children because he chose her side over everyone else. "Why didn't you tell me about the account? About the transfers? About the $315,000? Why did I have to hear it from a financial advisor? Why couldn't you trust me?" Robyn tried to reach for him, but he pulled away. That movement, small as it was, hit her harder than anything else. She had always been able to hide behind Kody's love, his loyalty, his blindness. But now, the cracks had finally reached him. Meanwhile, tensions continued rising as Janelle demanded answers about the account's transactions. "Where's the rest of the money? This is only one piece of it. If $315,000 ended up in your private account, how much more has been moved?" Her voice grew sharper, her patience gone. "How much money have you funneled from family accounts? Child support? Property payments? TLC bonuses?" The silence that followed was incriminating. Robyn hesitated before speaking, her voice barely above a whisper. There were other transfers, not big ones, just small amounts. But small to Robyn meant something very different to the rest of them. Like 10,000. 15.20, here and there. To cover things. To secure things. To keep things stable. She looked down, her hands twisting together. Janelle nearly exploded at the confession. $20,000 is not small, Robyn. Her voice cracked as she stepped closer. "You've been taking from us. From our futures. From our kids' futures. From the land we all paid for. From the income we earned together. This is not protecting. This is stealing." Even Kody flinched at the word, stealing. He had never imagined using that word against Robyn. But here he was, watching the woman he trusted most unravel under the weight of her own choices. Meri's eyes filled with a dark, quiet anger as she whispered, "You took from us because you thought we were less. Because you thought we didn't matter anymore. Because you thought you were above us." Her voice grew stronger. "You didn't just steal money. You stole years of chances for fairness. You stole the idea that this family could ever heal." Robyn wiped her tears, shaking her head desperately. "No. I didn't mean it like that. I felt alone. I felt like everyone would gang up on me. I thought Janelle and Christine would take everything and leave us with nothing. I panicked. I did what I had to do to protect my kids." Janelle's jaw tightened. "Your kids were always protected. You had the biggest house. The biggest income. The most support. Kody lived with you full-time while the rest of us struggled. Don't talk to me about being left with nothing." She stepped even closer, eyes burning. "Do you know how many times I was left alone with bills, with debts? With no answers. While you were getting everything you asked for. Robyn began crying again, but this time, nobody reacted. Not even Kody. The era where her tears controlled the room was over. Then, something unexpected happened. Kody turned on her fully, his voice breaking. Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me? Why did you build a plan that cut me out too? Was I just someone you used to get ahead? Was I part of your strategy? His voice cracked again. Did you ever actually love me? The question rattled the room. Even Meri and Janelle froze, watching Robyn's expression shift. For a second, she looked stunned. Then terrified. Then guilty. Kody, don't say that, she whispered. Of course I love you. I couldn't lose everything. I couldn't end up like them. She gestured subtly toward Meri and Janelle, her tone revealing more than she meant to. That sentence, I couldn't end up like them, was the final spark. Meri let out a bitter laugh. There it is. The truth. You always thought you were better than us. Robyn shook her head rapidly, but the damage was done. Kody stood again, gripping the edge of the table, his knuckles white. You think you're better than them? These women stood by me for decades. They raised my kids. They built this family. They lived through poverty with me. And you think you're better than them because you came in when things were comfortable. Robyn's lip quivered. I didn't mean it like that, but she had. And everyone knew it. Janelle looked at her, exhaustion replacing anger. You've been playing victim to stay on top. And while you were acting like everyone was against you, you were the one hurting us the most. The silence that followed carried years of unsaid truth. But the night wasn't done. Because as Kody looked at the papers again, something else caught his eye, another transaction. Another account number. Another detail Robyn hadn't confessed to. A new secret. A bigger one. And when he asked her about it, her face went pale. The room fell into a silence so deep it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Kody stared down at the newly discovered transaction, a second account number printed clearly beside a list of transfers that were never discussed, never approved, never even hinted at. His heartbeat thudded hard in his chest as he read the digits again and again, each number carving deeper into the betrayal already twisting like a knife inside him. He lifted his gaze to Robyn, his eyes burning with disbelief, confusion, and a kind of devastation she had never seen on his face before. He had been angry before, furious, explosive, loud, but this silence was different. This silence meant something inside him had cracked, maybe even permanently. Janelle moved closer, peering over his shoulder, her eyes narrowing the moment she understood what she was seeing. Another account, she whispered, the words sharp with disbelief. You have another private account. The question wasn't even fully a question, it was an accusation, one dripping with rage and disappointment. The first hidden account was already unforgivable. But a second, this wasn't an accident, a misunderstanding, or a moment of panic. This was a plan. A strategy. A blueprint Robyn had been quietly building for a long time. And it was finally unraveling in front of everyone. Meri stood still, her arms folded tightly against her chest, her jaw clenched so hard she could feel the pressure vibrating through her skull. She wasn't shocked, not really. She had suspected for years that there was more Robyn was hiding. But seeing it laid out in black ink on white paper still made her stomach twist. She had warned Kody long ago, but he hadn't listened. He couldn't listen. He didn't want to hear the truth then. But now, there was no more running from it. Robyn's voice broke the silence, trembling and small. Kody. I can explain. But her explanation didn't matter, not anymore. Kody's hands shook as he held up the paper, his voice cracking with a mix of fury and heartbreak. Explain? Explain this. Another account. More money moved. Robyn, how many accounts do you have? How long has this been going on? His voice shattered into a painful mix of grief and disbelief. How long have you been planning this without telling me? Robyn's eyes widened as she scrambled mentally for a way out, a way to spin the truth into something softer, something survivable. But nothing came. Not this time. Her voice wavered as she whispered, "It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't want it to come out this way." Janelle's anger ignited once again, her voice slicing through the room. "Then how was it supposed to come out, Robyn? After you took everything. After you left us with nothing. After you secured your future and abandoned ours." Her words hit Robyn like heavy blows. "We trusted you. Even when we shouldn't have, and you used that trust to secure money behind our backs." Meri finally stepped forward, her voice cold enough to freeze stone. "You didn't panic. You didn't slip. You planned. You moved money gradually. You hid accounts. You fooled Kody. You fooled us. This wasn't survival. This was manipulation." Her eyes never left Robyn's face. "You stole from the family you claimed to love." Robyn covered her mouth with shaking hands, tears falling uncontrollably now. But these tears, no one comforted. No one rushed to her. No one bought the story she was trying to portray. The power of her tears had expired, cracked under the weight of undeniable truth. Kody's breathing became unsteady as he tried to process everything. "Tell me," he said quietly, his voice hoarse. "Tell me how much total money you've moved." Robyn flinched as if the words themselves slapped her. She hesitated, too long. Kody's jaw clenched as the truth was unbearable for him. He had sacrificed his children, his wives, his unity, his reputation, all because he believed Robyn needed him. But now, he realized she never relied on him at all. She relied on money. On power. On secrecy. Suddenly, Janelle pulled out her phone, scrolling rapidly, her mind racing. She turned the screen toward Meri, showing her saved messages and screenshots, conversations she had months ago with financial advisors, accountants, and lawyers. Quiet investigations. Subtle inquiries. Details she had noticed long before Kody ever did. Janelle had known something was off. Not this big, perhaps, but big enough to prepare. Meri looked at the screen, her eyes widening, then she looked at Janelle with a dawning realization. "You've been preparing for this," she said softly. "You knew this was coming." Janelle nodded slowly. "I had a feeling. I didn't know how deep it ran, but I knew Robyn was hiding something. It's why I kept asking for statements. Why I kept pushing Kody for transparency. Why I didn't sign certain documents." She turned back to Robyn, her voice steady. "And now the truth is out." Robyn's voice cracked. "What are you going to do?" Janelle didn't hesitate. "We are going to get lawyers." Robyn's face drained of color. Kody lifted his head suddenly, panic flashing across his features. No, we can fix this, right? We can fix this without lawyers, right?" He was clinging to something, anything, that could undo the damage of what he had allowed for so many years. But Janelle shook her head firmly. "Not anymore, Kody. This isn't just a family issue. This is financial fraud. And if she doesn't return the money voluntarily, she could face charges." Robyn gasped sharply, her breath hitching. "Charges? Charges? You want to send me to jail?" The horror in her voice filled the room, but there was also fear. Real fear. The kind that comes when someone realizes consequences have arrived at their doorstep.